Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Sparkability Virtual Summit. I'm Patch Dulay, the founder and CEO of the Spark Project, and I'll also be your host and moderator for today. Before we start our session, I'd like everyone to know that we will have some time to entertain some of your questions later. So if you have any questions or you want to share some insights from our speaker and you'd like to share it, you may do so by leaving a comment down on our discussion box below. This session is also quite different from the one we had this morning. This is more of a workshop. So we also have a worksheet available for you to download and use. So if you can print it out, even better. During the session, I also encourage you to have your pens and notebooks handy because you will need it through this session. All right, so with us for this afternoon session is Dulay-Ferreria, life and career coach, facilitator, and founder of Your Awesome Year. She is also a Spark Project alumni. She crowdfunded her Your Awesome Year journals at thesparkproject.com in 2016. For the past 6 years, I have attended Coach Kitty's signature Life Strat Plan program, and it has helped me put clarity on the many things that I want to do in my life. And her program has also helped me strip down and articulate for myself what's important and essential in life. And from these and from her program, it helps me take the necessary steps to act on my goals every year. So I've been doing that for the past 6 years. Coach Kitty is a certified transformative coach. In the last decade, she has shifted from a secure corporate job, got a master's in organizational development, and had been doing consulting work on HR, organizational development, change and transition management projects. During this time, she got married, became a mom to Ali and Toby, and a homeschooling parent for 2 years, helping her kids to love learning and be kind. At the beginning of the quarantine, she tried to go hyper-productive, but soon enough found herself back in her slower, steadier, and more intentional pace. So without further ado, I'm so glad to introduce our speaker today. Let's all welcome Coach Dulay-Ferreria. Hi, Coach Kitty.
Hi, Patch. Good afternoon and good afternoon, everyone. And thank you for taking this time to attend this and do this for yourself. It's June, right? And in a few days, we're turning a new month. But to begin this, I'd like to invite us all to do a bit of a step back. Let's go back through time to January, right? January, we're turning into a new year. And actually, we were even turning a new decade. And you might be one of those people who said that 2020 is going to be my banner year. 2020 is going to be my year, and there's, you were so excited and you were so pumped for it. And for all of us, this is actually how January unfolded, right? For the world, there were bushfires in Australia. There was an earthquake in Turkey, a passenger plane in Iran was shot down. There was a locust invasion in East Africa, flooding in Jakarta. There was a tragic death of Kobe Bryant, his daughter, and other friends. And I think that shook a lot of people, even those who weren't into basketball. And really closer to home, plumes were coming out of that volcano, and all of a sudden we were finding ash. There was ash, and we were all scrambling to buy N95 masks. And coronavirus then was an outbreak in the city of Wuhan, right? Things have changed so much. And what we didn't know in January, which felt like a year in itself, was that it was actually just a front act to everything that we're experiencing now. And the world has changed so drastically. And we have this collective experience for the first time ever. We're experiencing a pandemic. And all over the world, countries have gone on lockdown. we've watched as healthcare systems have collapsed. Governments have been making tough calls and are struggling and grappling with how to run entire countries given what's happening all over the world. And so we share this collective experience. But at the same time, we also have 7.8 billion unique and personal experiences of this pandemic. Even people living in the same household aren't going through this in the same way. And actually, this is how it looked for me and for my family. So I remember March, that weekend in March, where we decided to go visit Lolo and Lola, and the kids were looking forward to an overnight, like a sleepover. Um, we are 11 weeks. We're 11 weeks and counting into that sleepover, actually. And yeah, this is my daughter, Ali. Um, so many things have changed. I have friends who have reached out of us. I think we have a running tally of like at least 10 friends who have reached out and asked about homeschooling, because now they're considering a switch. Some of them have always secretly wanted to try, and now this is an opportunity for them. But for others, it's really that uncertainty and that fear of sending their kids back to school where there is still no vaccine available. Work wise, what has it looked like for me? I think for some, work has tapered down. For me, there are peaks. There are times when I'm busier than I normally am. Um, and it's figuring out how to set up my virtual office, my home office, and it's actually like a home office on wheels nowadays. Basically, I need to find the quietest place at home where my kids are not around. So, um, needless to say, there are also other adjustments that I've made, as a wife, with the chores around the house, etc. But this is my experience, and it's just one of 7.8 billion experiences. And I know that for you, as entrepreneurs, I would guess that the pandemic has affected you on at least three levels. Right? The first would be on your work, on your businesses. And I've heard the stories. I have friends who are running businesses and are really, especially at the beginning of the quarantine, we're really at a loss as to how to fulfill orders. Imagine you have one staff who is actually walking distance to the office and can do the work and can deliver the work, but that person is in Rizal. And we know that there are boundaries that they cannot cross at that time, right? So challenges like this, businesses who have shifted from creating bags to now, hindi naman overnight, but almost overnight, shifting to creating PPEs. Some businesses are in a space where they're meeting with their founders and figuring out what the next step is. And their choice points are between suspending operations and actually closing the business because they're not essential goods. Um, there are also, businesses who have devoted a lot of time and energy into fundraising, or food businesses who have volunteered to provide meals for our frontliners or the most vulnerable in the communities. It's been disruptive, to say the least. It's been tough for entrepreneurs in general, no matter what size of business you have, because there are so many limitations now. But I know you, entrepreneurs and creatives who are here today, strive to do well. And you strive to do that while doing good. So I know also that it's really affected, your leadership at this point. Because I know you're not just thinking about your people, but also the families who rely on your people. Um, the other day, I was speaking to one entrepreneur who shared with me that actually they can decide to close the business and just take the hit for it. But what's actually keeping them on that fighting mode, like fighting for the business, is really their employees. Um, 17 people who um, rely on them, for the daily wages and for the needs of their families. And I would guess that these are some of the things that might be keeping you up at night and might keep you worried. Um, Now, on a third level, I think that this is also impacting you on a very personal level, like in terms of your well-being. In the past 11 weeks, maybe you've gone through the full spectrum of emotions, and I know that I have. Sometimes you're up, sometimes you're down, sometimes you're motivated to do things, sometimes there's zero motivation, and you don't even recognize yourself that way. Um, Maybe you've noticed that you're easily triggered by things, by events, by people. And I know what that's like too. Um, just to share with you, early in the quarantine, maybe a month into it, I joined some fellow coaches in an exercise of support and community. So basically, it was us coming together online on Facebook to answer some questions to help us process what we were going through. And there was so much rawness in the things that we were sharing with each other, which I think helped very much. And, we were very open about the feelings of, anxiety, whatever form it looks like, what we're trying to do to cope and to deal with the situation. So, even people in personal development like me, we're not exempt from going through the strong emotions and the confusion that the whole situation has brought. So I know that, things have changed for me, things have changed for us, for your businesses, for your people also. So the question I ask is, how do we make sense of this? How do we bounce back from a pandemic? Um, how do we start? How do you even start to bounce back from any kind of crisis? And this afternoon, I would like to borrow because in the consulting company where I'm affiliated, Talent Leadership and Change, we also work with people for change and transition management. And I borrow from the change management playbook today because I think it's very very apt for what we're going through. Because really the question is how we are dealing with change, right? Change, change. How are we dealing with change? Um, let's try to understand it a little bit. Change is an event. It's very clear cut. It's same for all. The event is the pandemic, and it triggered a series of other events like um, quarantine being implemented, the ECQ, MCQ, GCQ. The change triggered travel bans. It triggered work from home arrangements. It triggered, the suspension of all things, all of our usual activities the way that we used to know it. So a change is situational. The situation can be a choice or it can be circumstance. And in our case, what we're experiencing is, a circumstance. We did not choose this. Change is all about facts. We know when it started, we know where it started, or we kind of figuring out where it started and how. But it's quite predictable and straightforward. It's faster paced because once they say that, okay, this is going to happen, it's going to start, nobody's going to fly in or out by this date, that's it. Very clear change. But change is what happens to us. But the tricky part here, guys, is the part that's called transition. And if change is an event, transition is the experience of this event. And it's not the same for all. It's very different and unique. It's psychological. It has to do with emotions. And that's why it's so tricky. It deals with feelings. It's unpredictable. Like I said, one time, you feel that you're okay and you have everything figured out and it all makes sense to you. And then the following day when you wake up, it's different. And transitions are gradual and slower, even if sometimes you want them to be quick and you want to go to the new normal or move to the new normal right away. Right? So, to me, transition is that process that happens inside of us in order to be able to move forward. Transition comes from the root word transit. And I like the way it's described. It's a voyage from one place to another. A voyage from one place to the other. So this afternoon, I want to walk you through what that voyage or what this transition looks like, and hopefully bring you more clarity around the uncertainty that we're all in. So you can have a map, right? I offer you a map so that rather than feeling lost, we will know how to navigate around this space and kind of be comfortable and more confident in it. You know how when you're in another country or you go to a new place for a new time, you try to look for a map. And when you find one, you feel more confident. Or at least you try to find, like, check on ways where you are and try to get some guidance just to ground yourself. Like, san ba ako? Where am I here? And where is it that I would like to go, right? So maps give us a reference point. Maps allow us to see what's ahead, and what we're faced with, right? So for this afternoon, where are we going to start, right? I'll show you a map, but where is it that we begin? Transitions start with an ending, and it finishes with a beginning. Okay, what, Kitty? Starting with an end and finishing with a beginning. Yep, that's exactly it. And that's how complex it is, this thing that we're going through, right? So let me introduce you to our map and the three zones, so that we can familiarize ourselves. And actually, through this process, you might be able to identify where you are, and you might recognize some zones that you've been to in the last 11 weeks or like almost 3 months. So let's go to the first one. We said that transitions start at an ending. Okay. And our first zone is, endings. Ending, losing, and letting go. I have to tell you, this phase is not fun. This zone is not fun at all, because it's marked by resistance, and heavy emotions, because change has pushed us, has shoved us out of our comfort zone, right? And it really caught us unaware. People in this zone usually feel fear, Like, what is this? What is this coronavirus? What is this COVID-19? Am I gonna catch it if I go out? Or is a mask enough to keep me safe? What's gonna happen to my business? Or like, where am I gonna get the money to pay for my people? Right? It's also here we also sometimes feel denial. It's okay. Just let everyone work from home. Everyone can take a break for 2 weeks. Take the time. We'll see them again, and then when we come back, we'll finish off. I mean, we'll start where we left off. Right? There's also anger, and I've seen a lot of this directed towards people in authority, um, people in government, right? Sometimes it's people at home. So the anger is directed to them. We snap at them. Imagine for the first time, maybe you're always busy and you guys are always out. But now, every waking moment, your full family is there, right? And maybe the anger might even be directed to your kids if you have kids. When you think that they're misbehaving, everyone's having a hard time, right? But there's also frustration when we feel that we don't get the answers that we want or that we need. And there's also sadness and grief because of what's lost, the things that we can't do anymore. Say, for example, you had plans for this quarter for your business, or you were going to launch something, and you worked really, really hard on it. And now your clients are canceling and the events are no longer pushing through. And you don't know if you're going to have those opportunities again. So there's also that sense of grief. And in one of the Harvard Business Review articles I read from David Kessler, an expert on grief, he talks about anticipatory grief. And even when nothing is really lost yet, it's that feeling that we get about a future that's uncertain, right? So these are all feelings. Feelings are actually neutral, but we tend not to embrace these feelings because they're hard, they're messy. And how do we get out of this zone? Right, Kathy? How do I get out of this? How do I navigate this? Well, to get out of it needs acceptance. Right? People have to accept that something is ending before they can move on to what's next. And it requires us to be aware and to accept our feelings, even the hard ones, and learning from them as well. Because what we would usually do is, maybe bottle up the feelings, put it away because it's not productive, it's getting in the way, or I can't deal with these feelings because it's a sign of weakness, or maybe you would brood. You would be a brooder where you really immerse yourself in those feelings, but really there's no movement that's happening. You just keep thinking and thinking and thinking about it. Or maybe you just pretend that you're happy. You try to chase happiness, and if you think positive and you think happy, then all of the negative feelings will go away, right? But those don't necessarily lead to the acceptance and embracing of the situation. Um, what we can do, and what you can do or explore if you are still at this phase, or if you know people who are in this zone, is to number one, find a way to express the feelings. Find somebody to talk to. If not, your expression can be through a journal, or through art, if that feels right for you. Another way is to get support. You can get support through a group, or maybe a counselor or a coach. If you're having a hard time moving out of this particular zone, I also would encourage you to do things that are fun for you. Whatever that means. I mean, for some people, it might be tapping into a hobby, or working out, or baking. I've seen a lot of new home bakers these days. I mean, that's okay. So that we can try to balance things out also. Um, and a helpful thing to do is also to define what's over and what isn't. To just actually name it and accept it for what it is. And I'll get back on that point later on. Also, as you're probably wondering also, how can I help my team or my community in my business? How can I help them go through this phase? If I notice that they're still here at the ending, losing, and letting go zone, well, one is just to give space. Now that you know that this is a normal thing to go through, let's allow them some space when they're going into this zone. Another is to check in from time to time. um there's actually a lot of power in having somebody just listen to you and not try to fix things for you, but just really listen. And you're not required to actually give solutions when you do this. But it can be very helpful for people to have somebody who is not going to judge them, but is just going to listen to what's going on. Right. So um at this point, I want to take a pause. I know that if you have downloaded or printed out a worksheet that came with the program, you can do that. Or if not, you can have like your journal or your notebook. I'd like to take maybe 2 to 3 minutes. Um, Take a pause here and to give you time to answer these questions. So even if you're not finding yourself in the ending, losing, and letting go zone, it would be good to just put this down on paper and articulate what has ended, what has been lost, and what must be let go at this time. Okay? So I will check back with you in the next 2 minutes. Um, Feel free to grab a drink, jot down just what's on top of mind. You can go back to this later, right? I'll see you in 2 minutes. on what the all right. Yeah, I hope you're able to jot down a few notes on what the experience in this zone looked like for you. Um, let's move on to the next one. Okay. So the next zone is what you call the neutral zone. It's also an exploration zone. Um, but the feelings here are feelings of confusion, actually. And a lot of us, of course, are not comfortable with that, with the uncertainty that comes with not being sure yet. And there's even a little impatience. I don't know if you can resonate with that, feeling a little bit impatient with the pace when it seems like there's very little progress in the business or in the plans. And this is, I think, especially hard for people who are used to seeing results. Like when you take action, you like seeing results right away, right? Um, Confusion is a word you've invented for an order which is not understood. Let's take some assurance in that there is order out there. It's just that we have not figured it out yet, and that is being in the space where I don't know and I haven't figured it out yet. That is part of the process. Okay. Um, think of this phase as like a bridge between the old ways and the new ways. In some ways, people will still be attached to the old while you're trying to adapt to the new. So maybe at this time also, some of you are actually doing things already just to get by, like shifting to creating PPEs or moving your goods to an online store. Um, but this is still somewhat limbo, right? It feels temporary. And I liken it to this metaphor, the metaphor of the trapeze artist, right? So you've already jumped off from one side, you're already swinging over to the next side, and you're actually already caught. But you're in that space in the middle where you don't actually want to let go yet because you're not sure if it's safe. You're not sure if you're actually going to be able to cross over all the way to the end. And so, it's good. This is a great time to feel the safety nets or put the safety nets in place, right? It's not so much that we're afraid of the change. It's really that in between place where there's nothing to hold on to, right? We know already that we have to let go, and we have. But being not sure, that puts you in a very tricky situation also. So what happens when you're hanging in between? So the confusion is there. There's anxiety about the role you're going to have moving forward. There's a lot of questions. Um, this is the zone where you start rethinking, tama ba yung goals? I mean, were the goals that I set before, do I really want them? What are the things that are really priority at this time? So you find yourself also asking the essential questions and looking back at values and looking back at the things that you've done, maybe reassess, and just take stock of what's going on. And while there are not so nice emotions, even at the neutral zone, this is also the zone for creativity, innovation, and renewal. And that is the gift of this zone. And it's important to understand the neutral zone and how it might still be stressful and it might still be confusing, but there is opportunity there. It's important to understand because we risk rushing through the neutral zone, especially if parang let's just get it over with. I don't want to the impatience and the confusion. Let's just take action already, right? You might rush through it. You might think that the confusion that you feel is a sign that there's something wrong or you're doing something wrong, especially when you're seeing other entrepreneurs who seem to have moved on already, right? There's nothing wrong with you, right? This is part of the process. This is part of being in the neutral zone. Second, it's important to understand the neutral zone because you might end up trying to escape it or skipping it, right? Skipping it or quitting. You might make rash decisions just because this is a very difficult space. You might end up, um, ending something that actually just needs to be put on pause, right? And number three, you might miss a great opportunity if you try to go to the next zone without staying in the neutral zone first and getting to be comfortable in it. You might miss the opportunity to really recreate yourself as a leader, maybe. Um, things were going so fast before this pandemic, and now we actually have the time to pause and see what things in our leadership are working and maybe not working or maybe need adjustments. And this is the perfect time for that reinvention or that renewal. The neutral zone is not wasted time. It's not meaningless waiting. Even in the confusion, right? It's a time when you can redefine things. And I think people need to understand that the neutral zone has its place. What you can do during this time is to revisit, your values, goals, and priorities. It's at this time that I would encourage you to find quick wins. Don't try to, create a new strat plan or redefine targets or make big targets for yourself or big goals for yourself. Just set yourself on things that you're able to do, smaller goals, quicker wins, a new habit here and there, one small step lang. That's really all that you need. Otherwise, you'll put undue pressure on yourself in this neutral zone. Remember, there's still confusion and there's still stress and there's still uncertainty, right? So it's important that we are kind to ourselves at this time and yeah, be patient, right? Transition is a gradual and slow process. What can you do for others at this time? Well, provide a sense of direction. So even if that direction means that it's just that, oh, we're trying to work things out, we're trying to get more information. Some of your people might not actually need a full plan of how things are going to be in the next year or in the next 6 months even. But just let them know that there are actions being taken, and that adds to security in this very uncertain period. And also help them with quick wins. Maybe there are things that can be done, even if you're not in like full production or full operation. Maybe there are things like I know of one client who's decided that, okay, it's once and for all, let's fix our inventory at this time, since we can't do a lot of other things, but this one we can do, right? Just find areas where you can have quick wins. So going back, this is a gift, this exploration, this neutral zone. The question I would like for us to think about at this point, especially if you're finding yourself in the neutral zone now, is what's the best way to spend your time in exploration? What's the best way to spend your time in this neutral zone? And I'll give you another 2 minutes to do that. Just what comes to the top of your mind. And then you can expound on these later when you have more time. Okay, so I'll see you in 2 minutes. Okay, guys. I hope that was a good, quick pause for you to write down what the neutral zone is like and how best to spend it. So let's move um, to this zone, this exciting zone of new beginnings that I think that we're all trying to get to, right? This is a time of acceptance. There's a lot of energy, new energy, and excitement during this time. And this is where you've started to embrace already what's next, right? And now you've built up energy to build new skills and habits. Like maybe from the neutral or exploration zone, you've identified already what you want to follow through with. Um, and now there's like a renewed sense of commitment to the goal, if you change the goals, and to the business and to the communities. So starts involve new situations, right? But new beginnings involve new understandings, new values, really new ways of doing things, and even new identities for you as leaders. And as individuals, whatever the roles you're playing are, like if you're a sister, a parent, a partner, this is the time where you've set into, or you've chosen the way that you're going to show up in these roles. New beginnings will only take place after you've gone through that wilderness of the neutral zone and you're ready to make like an emotional commitment to the next step. Right? So what you can do at this time um, is start small, right? Even if we say that, oh, we're already in the new beginning doesn't mean that you have everything already figured out. Because remember, the new beginning is not one point. It's actually a big zone, a big zone. So give yourself space when you enter that new beginning. You can start with maybe having a clarity around your purpose. Maybe you can paint a picture of what the next steps look like. But for you to be in the new beginning doesn't require that you have things all figured out or that you have the full plan. I actually would say that um, the time will come when you're ready to revisit those plans and make longer term plans. But as you enter the new beginning, remember to start small also. Um, what you can do for others is celebrate. Celebrate together the quick wins that you've had. And eventually they will build up. It's really taking small steps and getting used to taking those steps together, like in the new place that you're entering. And also, respect the readiness of your people because it's like a marathon, getting to the new beginning or the ending point. You as leaders will probably get there sooner. But your people, some will be there right behind you, but some might take a little while. So be mindful of the stage at which people are. Be mindful when you're pushing too fast. Like, oh, we've been 3 months not operating, and now that we're here in the new beginning, you know, we have to manage our expectations. People are not going to jump in and work just as they did like in February or in early March, right? So be mindful of the readiness of your people, right? So there's a lot to look forward to in the new beginnings, and I think it might be a bit overwhelming also. So yeah, remember my suggestion, Sang, to start small, and also go at don't rush this space, right? So when we talk about readiness for the new beginning, the question that I would like to ask is, what would it look like and feel like to be ready for a new beginning? Or maybe if you're in this stage already, what's it like for you now that you're ready to get back on track, so to speak, and you're ready to set yourself up? What are the things that you're bringing with you? Like, what are the tools? What's in your luggage, diba? Anong dala nyo sa maleta now that you're here in the new beginning? What kind of energy do you have? What kind of feelings do you carry? Let's take a moment to take stock of that. We'll do a quick break again, 2 minutes, and try to imagine, what does it really look and feel like to be in a new beginning? All right. Okay. You're back, right? We've seen the map. We've seen the three zones. We're familiar with what it takes to move from one to the other. But some key things that I think you should know, and remember about the transition. Number one, this is not a linear process. So it would be tempting to think that, okay, after I'm done with the ending, and I've gone through the neutral zone, and then the next for me will be the new beginning, right? This is more like a process where you can go back and forth, and you can be in one place in one area of your life, but ahead in some other area of your life, right? Um, Number two, the transition cannot be completed unless all three have taken place. So we cannot skip. And like I mentioned earlier, don't rush through it. Um, you will be most creative when when you're at your best. And this is going to happen. You'll be at your best if you transition well. So take the time that you need to go through the transition. Um, Even if you feel that everyone outside is already in the new beginning or has already started and is already living their new normal. Okay, take your time. Yeah, because space differs, right? And we need to respect our own pace and be mindful of the pace of others, especially those who we are leading. Because really nobody is exempt from transition. Um, and if you do it well, then perhaps you've made the most out of the endings and the neutral zone. You've built the new mindsets that can help you with um, whatever comes next for you. And no matter whether it takes you fast or slow, um, I hope that being familiar with the zones helps you go through it with less drama and and a little more hope. Um, people don't talk about this stuff, right? We talk about change and we talk about what's next, but we don't talk about these things that are happening in between. Because this is behind the scenes, right? This is behind the scenes work, and this is inside work that you have to do. You don't see this outside, especially not on social media. You're not going to see this talked about there. But it is very, very, very important. If you are in the new beginning, great, right? If you're in the neutral zone, yes, yay, you're in a space where you can explore, and there's a lot of opportunity there, a lot of creative energy there. If you find yourself in the ending, or if you go back there, well, then good. That's really part of it. And eventually you'll get to the other side, right? So, these are the points that I would like to leave you with before I take you through two other questions, parang pabaon questions, so that you have some clear ways to move forward with the insights that you have from this session. And while I can't see any chat or input on what the insights are, I trust that there was something in the talk today that have helped you get a sense of clarity, or like maybe an insightful moment that will help you deal with whatever you're dealing with at the moment. Right. So um, yeah, here are the zones. No matter where you are, be fully in that space. And the question on your worksheet is this, right? As you go through transition, and we know how important it is to do it, and we want to go through it as smoothly and as gracefully as possible, what needs most your attention now? And I encourage you to identify maybe three main things that are important to you now and how you want to move forward in them. So, if I may suggest, maybe one thing would be about the business, one thing might be about yourself, and one thing might be about another area of your life that's important for you, or that you're trying to figure out at the moment. So whatever these are, let's think about that question. Take a moment. What needs most my attention now that will help me move either to the next stage, or make the most out of the zone that I'm in. Right? We'll take maybe a little bit more time. Let's take 3 minutes on this question before we move on to the last one. Okay. Okay, so I hope you've been able to identify some ways that you can move forward with the insights that you have now. And I'll be sure to gather them with Patch and check them out later. Um, Maybe as a closing, and you might see it already in your worksheet, right? How do you want to help others in their transition? Knowing that everyone goes through this and that it can get very messy at times. Think about the people that you work with, the people that you live with, even, or the people who are close to you. You can try to think about where they are at this phase or where they are in the three zones. And just ask yourself that question: what am I ready to help them with? How can I show them that I'm here to support them in making a good and a smooth and a graceful transition at this time? Right, so we'll give you another 3 minutes for that before I come back with Patch. Hey, yeah. Okay. So I hope that that part of the activity was helpful for you, and again, you can go back. I encourage you to go back to that sheet of paper, and try to flesh it out more. Maybe over the weekend. Although sometimes I know that these days, the weekdays and the weekends don't seem like they're different. But yeah, when you have that space and time to dig deeper and flesh it out more, yeah, it's an important step. So take the time to do it. Yeah, I'll leave you guys with that. I think, hey Patch,
Thank you, Coach Kitty.
you're
I
welcome.
Yeah, thank you for that insightful, I must say, workshop. No, I
Yeah,
learned a lot. I actually want to share a few things that I've learned from you this afternoon. Uh, well, first is yun na nga na this whole situation that we are in not only impacts or really impacts different aspects of our lives, not just at work, but also in our leadership, and of course ultimately yourself. So parang
mm-hmm.
at this point, it's really important to take some time to to pause, as you said, and look into yourself, because I feel like when you take care of yourself, or start first, like with your own kumbaga, mind framing, that's the
Yeah,
only time that you can actually help others and help your team or your community.
right, right.
And
And yeah, can
yeah,
I say something
yeah,
about that
sure.
that sharing that you had, Patch? And I think some leaders or entrepreneurs might feel a bit of guilt taking the time out for themselves,
Yeah,
given that everything is happening. It might feel a little bit um, um, off timing to take a break at this time to really give yourself that space. But I think that that's most essential now.
mhm,
Because how can you show up, as the best leader if you're also grappling with the being in the different zones, especially if you're in the neutral, or if you're still in the endings zone. Yeah,
yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think a lot of social entrepreneurs would feel the same and would relate to that.
yeah,
Because they also have communities that they look after too. They
yeah.
feel like now is not the best time to pause or
Mm,
even take a break, and I feel like taking a break is something, yeah, that they might feel, or like even myself, like I feel guilty if I take a break, because there are a lot of things now more than
yeah.
ever that needs solving or that needs help.
Mm,
So
yeah,
I think it's
yeah.
a good reminder
Mm,
for us listening, to take some time to pause, because we are, as you said, in transition. And
mm,
transition, um, yeah, it's nice how you put it, that the three zones of transition. And if I could relate it back to what Miss Chit mentioned this morning, the first, you mentioned kasi like the three zones of transition being letting go, neutral zone, and new
new
beginning.
beginning. Right.
And she actually ended, or in part of Miss Chit's talk this morning, was part of it is about letting go. If things are not working out as planned, or in terms in some aspect of your business, there are things that beyond your control, and what you planned early this year is not happening anymore. Part of it is also having that wisdom, and also acknowledging that there are things that you have to let go, and that's the only time that you can actually think of the future, or think of like what you can do now.
Yeah.
And it's important then to, this one's new, the neutral zone. I think a lot of our
Mm,
attendees also are find themselves in this neutral zone right now. I guess either switching between letting go and neutral zone. And maganda yung sa neutral zone, kasi yun yung acknowledgement talaga na, okay, we need to take a break, and we need to reassess how we can move forward from here. And yun, na parang kung tinanggal kasi natin yung neutral zone, it's accepting kagad and then do something else right away, and something new. But having that neutral zone in the middle is, I think, very, very essential in us being more effective social entrepreneurs, leaders, even
right,
individuals.
right.
Yeah. And lastly, about it being a marathon,
Mm,
nice in how it has I can relate it also back to Miss Chit's talk this morning about, this crisis may be just a speed bump. But don't look at it as a race in a way na parang, okay, we have to do something immediately.
Mm.
It's actually a marathon where we all have to survive and everybody has their own pace. It's also a nice reminder what you said this afternoon
Yeah.
about not being too hard on yourself. Like, okay, the other social entrepreneurs doing this already and I'm not. Like, is there
Mm.
anything wrong? So
Yeah.
yun, na parang it's a good reminder. I think entrepreneurs like us need reminding of those things.
Yeah. I think we can all do a collective exhale.
Yeah. Okay, inhale,
Yeah.
exhale. I just want to
Exhale.
share. I just want to share some insights from our attendees this afternoon.
Okay.
We
I
asked
can see it.
we asked them about where they are now, choosing like which zone they are now, and Chris from Gypsy Heart said that she's
Hi,
being in the
Chris.
neutral zone. She feels like neutral zone as a sharing, no? Neutral
Yeah.
zone is a time to reflect on things that I'm grateful for. Gratitude ignites hope, and hope magnifies faith. Faith that things will fall into place at the right
Amen.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the acknowledging talaga the neutral zone part na it's a time for reflection. It's a time for even being
Mm.
gracious about,
Yeah.
what we have at the moment
Yeah.
and finding strength in that, diba?
Mm.
Another the last question another was from Rod Mark. He was describing new beginnings. So new beginnings is like parenthood or marriage. You can never be prepared, and you just have to go through it.
Yeah. Right. You can plan all you want, diba,
Mhm.
Rod Mark? You can make all these plans, but when you get there, you just manage like one thing at a time, deal with things as they come and you do your best.
Mhm. And then to answer another sharing from Rai, I think it's answering your final question, like how do you
Yeah.
want to help others in their transition, because she does have a social enterprise, and one
Okay.
thing that she needs to do, or she's reflecting on, one thing is really that she needs to do in helping others transition is ensuring that the communities that she works with um, won't stop, parang reassuring them that work will
Ah.
not stop, because
Mm.
currently the communities that most of the social enterprise are working with or are taking care of or looking after are also like in this whole, okay, what do we do now, our future is uncertain. So
Mm.
as a social entrepreneur, as someone who is working with them closely, I'm being able to reassure them
Mm.
during
Yeah.
this time that there will be
Yeah.
work, and
Mm.
that it might be slow right now, but
Yeah.
assuring them that together they can go somewhere, they
Mm.
will find a
Mm.
way to resume or like think of new
Mm.
ways to go about doing business, and
Yeah.
ensuring that their people, they won't be left out of work or they won't get left behind.
Right. Right. That is very important, especially now. um, People are actually trying to find assurances outside. Maybe they're trying to find assurances. Even us, diba? We're trying to find assurances with a barangay or with the local government or with, the national government. We're trying to find assurances from our clients. We're trying to find assurances from our bosses. If we're for those who are also maybe part timing or who are employed. Well, if you as a social entrepreneur can give that kind of assurance, kahit konti lang. I mean, don't promise the world,
Mhm.
pero konti lang that you will be there and you will support them. And even if you don't know, you'll try to find ways and you can find ways together. I think malaking bagay na talaga yon. No?
Mhm. Mhm. Can you share any, like, what would you suggest when it comes to talking with your team members or with your community members?
Yeah.
Okay, we want to assure them. in your how what would be the best way to go
Mhm.
about talking with them, you think?
Um, First, I would try to reach out to something I would try is to do one-on-ones. Like even if your team is very big and that's not possible, maybe smaller groups, because then you would be able to listen, and it would allow them to have kind of like feel like there's a safe space for them to talk about what they feel, especially if they're in that endings or like even in the neutral zone, but still very confused. Um, you can also help them understand, because like I was talking to one entrepreneur yesterday, and she's like, I know that there's anxiety and I'm familiar with it, pero it's hard for them. They don't understand that concept eh. So it's hard to explain to them what anxiety is and how it's normal. But maybe what you can do is actually try to use the metaphor or the even the map
The three
of the
zones, I
zones.
think, yeah.
Yeah. I haven't thought through it now, but maybe there's a way that you can explain it to them in very simple, in a way that they can understand, na kailangan pagdaanan 'to, tsaka normal lang, at tsaka okey lang,
Mhm.
na ganito yung nararamdaman natin. And help them identify where they are
Mhm.
and what they can do. So it's kind of like coaching.
Mhm. Yeah.
And coaching is really just, a purposeful conversation that's
Mhm.
very, like, action-oriented. So you can do that with them. And again, going back to the earlier discussion we had, that yeah, just give them the assurance. Don't promise them the world. Because we don't know, diba? We're at the point where we really can't make any guarantees. But um, I think it's important for them to know that you care, and that you're doing the best that you can, and that they can trust you.
Mhm. Yeah, it's good. Thank you. We have some sharings or sharings from our audience or attendees. Have two. So one is from Ali of Colabox. She says this session was very insightful. I guess my favorite part was being reminded that even as we venture through the neutral zone with all the chaos and confusion, it's not meaningless waiting. Maganda
Yes.
nga yun na neutral zone doesn't mean just because we say neutral, does it
Na
mean
walang
that
nangyayari.
walang nangyayari. Maganda siya ng reminder sa atin. Another one is I think we need not lose focus on what we do and not jump into the trends or the bandwagon in order to maintain balance in the market. I think it's more like as a business. I think
Mhm.
right now everybody's scrambling. Everybody's like looking at their own businesses and seeing how they can survive. And of course, we can't help but compare or like see compare ourselves with the progress of other
Yeah.
entrepreneurs and base what we should do or how we
Mhm.
should be doing um, basing it from other people's
Right. Mhm.
reaction to the situation.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that it's different for everyone, and we have to always remind ourselves not to lose focus.
Yeah. And not everyone, we're not seeing behind the scenes. We don't know what's going on.
Mhm.
And what their transition also is like. And so it might be, everyone's just like on trial and error mode, I think. I
Mhm.
mean,
Mhm.
we try our best, we make decisions based on what we think is best, but really nobody is sure. There's no formula for what's going to work at this time, because we're really not in a steady state. So yeah, um, it can be um, it it puts unnecessary pressure, I think,
Mm-hmm.
when we start looking at what everyone else is doing and we lose that focus. So thank you for that reminder of keeping our focus on, on our business and what we can do,
Mm-hmm.
and not be distracted in the process.
Siguro, yeah, as a follow-up question on focus,
Yeah.
what practical exercises you think we can do
Mhm.
to, snap back and focus on what's important to us and not be so distracted with
Yeah.
others?
Yeah.
What could you
Actually, yeah,
suggest?
I think one of the things is to just take notice. Like, try not to do anything different, but just notice the activities that you're doing these days. Like, all of the things that you do, however which way you fill your time, you'll notice that they impact you in different ways. So you could be, I don't know, watching Netflix, or you could be scrolling on social media, or you could be working on, like, forcing yourself to come up with like some kind of a sales plan or
Mm-hmm.
something like
Mm-hmm.
that. But these activities, some of them energize us and some of them drain us.
Mm-hmm.
So notice how you're spending your time and what are the things that are giving you a lot of energy and positivity and what are actually draining. And make adjustments along the way. Perhaps you're doing too much work already. We have to remember also that we have to give ourselves some space and margin. We need to adjust kind of our expectations of what productivity is from
Mm-hmm.
from before this
Yeah.
started up until now. So yeah, taking a look at the activities we're doing and actually what are contributing, what's creative, parang what activities are generating more energy from you. Do more of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then what are the activities that are actually draining? Maybe you need to cut down on the time that you're
Mm-hmm.
doing those things, right? So there's no one size fits all,
Mm-hmm.
on what we can do to be more focused. But just noticing how we are spending our time might be able to do that. So parang edit the way that we spend our days. If you're in the neutral zone, a lot of editing is going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
actually. So, and also be mindful of what you consume.
Okay.
Um, be it food. Yeah, kasi sometimes even the food, it affects your energy in certain ways. Be it something that you read, or even the amount of learning, diba? Oh, we want to make the most out of it. Please, if you don't have to have anything to show for being in this quarantine, okay?
Okay. Okay.
um, be mindful lang of if you're into taking webinars and all those classes.
Yeah.
Be more selective. What are the things that are actually helping you? And what are the things that, oh, even if you paid a lot for it, maybe we'll just do it at another time.
Mm-hmm.
So stick to the essentials. Konti lang yun eh. There are only a few really essential things. And you won't know what they are if you don't take notice.
Mm-hmm.
So first step is just to notice,
Yeah.
like how
What
you're
I'm
spending your time.
Yeah, what I'm picking up are like what important talaga that we become mindful of
Yeah.
our actions. Mindful in a sense that you take yun nga, we do take notice of our activities. Nice to ask ourselves questions: what gives us more energy? What activities give us more energy? What gives us stress? And that way, it can help you edit out the noise, the negativity, and then you can focus also on what gives you more energy, what gives you more life and more inspiration, diba? Um, yeah, thank you so much. As an end, I just want to thank you. But as an end, I'd like to share one last insight from, maybe two.
Yeah.
First is from Simon. Well, about being in the
Hi,
neutral zone.
Simon.
Yeah, we at the neutral zone, right, have focused our energies towards building and connecting our community forward. so that when times have been more in our favor, we are already jump starting and ready to engage in our activities. So yeah, there they are in the neutral zone right now. We
Yay.
have also focused on adjusting into the new norm by creating technologies and products inclined with the current situation. So making the most out of that neutral zone.
Yeah.
And lastly, to end, this is nice ender to our discussion and to your session, Coach Kitty.
Okay.
um, is this no? So getting back on track is not easy, but it's helpful to hear positive thoughts and sharing from experts, especially reminding us that it is normal to take a break and relax. Helps in
Mm.
overcoming anxiety. Yeah, actually, it's also very important now to acknowledge also our mental wellness.
Yeah.
Kasi
Yeah.
these are extraordinary times eh, di ba?
Mm-hmm.
So parang
Yeah.
it can't really react to the situation as if
Yeah.
how we would react, let's say, pre-COVID.
Yeah. And maybe as a last note to that though, remember when we were on the plane,
Mm-hmm.
there's that reminder at the beginning where the flight attendants or the in-flight video, safety video will tell you that, okay, in case of an emergency, oxygen masks will drop. Don't forget to put your oxygen mask first, because you won't be able to help your communities. You won't be able to show up as the best leader that you can if
Mm-hmm.
you're not ready.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not okay,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the best thing that you can do when you feel you're in those moments is to really take care of yourself, do the needful,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Mm-hmm.
the rest will follow.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Ang ganda. I think that's a good reminder. Actually, even by just being here, like those who are attending and watching right now, thank you, Coach Kitty, for being that kind of like breath of fresh air, like being that oxygen mask for us right now.
Yeah,
Much
we're all
needed
gonna be okay.
oxygen because we need that right now so that we can be better entrepreneurs, better leaders, better social entrepreneurs to our team and to the people, our communities as well. So with that, I'd like to thank you, Coach Kitty, for sharing with us such insightful and meaningful things that we can apply in our lives and also in our business. Thank you for taking the time off to share everything you know with us.
Yeah. Salamat for the
Okay.
opportunity at may naiambag ako.
Meron
Thank
na
you.
meron. Maraming salamat.
Thanks, Patch.
Again, thank you. We will
Thanks,
proceed
everyone.
to the next session that we have later at 4 p.m. So we have a 30-minute break. We can use this time to kind of digest what just happened this session and also maybe have some coffee. And then we reconvene later at 4 p.m. for our final session for day one. So again, thank you and see you later. Bye.